and that's for sure. I mean, they're deep into it in Salvador and Bahia. And this is to me when this is like, I think last year when I did the presentation in Cameroon. And I'm with the majority of the people I'm with are the Bassa people and some Bamaleke people. And the Bassa people, I asked them about, you know, I talked about the formula with them. At the time, I didn't even know what their perspective of spirituality was, you know. So I asked them, they told me that the creator is Mbag and the ancestors is Bawaga, Bawaga, and the same deal. The they ritually pay homage to the ancestors and ask the ancestors for the power of Mbag. Ain't that the same thing? It's the same thing. The formula stays the same. Right? Okay, so now, if you go back to the 5 realms of nature. Now, all of us in here, right? You know what? All of us desire, on an individual level, right? We all desire to be one with the creative forces, to feel that euphoria, right? To feel that sensory of oneness, like you're connected to everything in the universe that's connected to you. It gives you an elevated sense of euphoria and purpose, you know what I mean? And we all want to reach that. We all want to reach that. And in Kemet, there was a process for that. In Africa, there's a process, right? There's a process. And you know, if I focus really deeply on an object, let's say one of the ancestors there, or maybe the plant here, you know, if I focus very deeply, very, very deeply, if I concentrate on something very deeply, the brain has the potential to alter the molecular particles in the space that I'm attempting to acquiescence with, whether it be a physical object or a metaphysical object, right? And in Kemet, another name for deep concentration is meditation, right? It's a ritual meditation. Because the object here is to absorb the Netaru, right? Or the ancestor. To absorb the Netaru into your consciousness. And through ritual, elevate the consciousness to a subconscious state of spiritual oneness. That's how we're going to get to this level of oneness, right? It's a ritual. We're not going to wake up and say, you know, I want to be one with the woods today. I want to, you know what I mean? You know, I'm not going to go hug trees like these crackers, you know. I'm going to go through the ancestral ritual, right? You know what I mean? And so, how it was done, the first thing you have to do in this space that you're attempting to ritually meditate or acquiescence to the ancestors or the Netaru, because you're trying to absorb the Netaru, the Neter, into your consciousness, and through further ritual, elevate your consciousness to a subconscious state of spiritual oneness, right? So the first thing you have to do is wake up the ancestors or the Netaru. And in African tradition, the first thing we do to wake up the ancestors is to drum. And that's the first part of the ritual, is to drum, to wake up the Netaru. Because again, the low bass frequency the low bass frequency of the drum is the low bass frequency of the melanin and their melanated ancestors. So it transmits, right, time. That's how deep the drum is. The drum sound can transmit time. It can slip into the spirit world, according to our ancestors, right? So you wake the ancestors up. It's like if you're asleep and I need to wake you up, I'm going in, I'm gonna make some noise. Wake up! And you're gonna wake up, right? It's the same thing with the ancestors. You know what I mean? I wanna wake the ancestors up, so I'm gonna drum. I'm gonna drum. Now, I need this space to be purified because in the spirit world is a place of purification. See, the spirit world is purified. There is no contamination in the spirit world. So you don't have the right to try to bring anything from the spirit world into your contaminated earth world. So the first thing you need to do is to purify the space that you're attempting to acquiesce, that you're ritually acquiescing with, in an attempt to pull the ancestor or the Netaru into your consciousness and then through further ritual, raise your consciousness to a subconscious level of spiritual oneness. So the first thing, like you see the sister here, she is trying to absorb the Heru into her consciousness, right? Now, whenever you see a picture of the animal on the body, that means she's going through the ancestor to get to Heru. Now, there are some people out here that are so spiritual that they do not need the ancestors, because we're all living ancestors. Now, there's some very, very spiritual people out here that just go straight to the Neteru. They don't need to go through the ancestors. I'm not that spiritual yet. I have to go through the ancestors. Anybody here can go straight, can skip over the ancestors? I need to talk to you.
They're not going to tell you if they are. They're going to, you know.
Right. So what she's doing is, because water is the primary component in the universe of purification. So what she's doing is purifying. What she's doing is purifying the space so she can communicate with the ancestor or the Neter. You see what I'm saying? So you have to purify the space, right? Now, this brother is he's like the incense, because you know our ancestors love that smell. They love the smell of sage. They love frankincense. I don't know what other smell, but they love the smell. The smell can absorb spirit. The smell can take you to spirit. It can absorb spirit. So what you see the brother here is he's cleansing the space with incense. So you have libation, you have incense in order to clean this space, so you then can ritually communicate with the ancestors or the Neteru, right? And you see a brother here, he's doing both. So what he's doing is pouring libation, and he's pouring he has the incense, and he's pouring the libation, right? Now, so let's for an example, let's take something out of the Neteru that we want to absorb into our consciousness through ritual, and then through further ritual, raise our consciousness, our ancestral or our Neteru consciousness, into a subconscious state of spiritual oneness. Let's pull something out of the animal realm of nature. Let's talk about let's say if we want to absorb the attributes, the Neter, Sobek, right? Now, with the animal Neteru, you have to know the behavioral attribute of the animal, because the behavioral attribute of the animal is the Neter. So you can't just sit up and say, well, you know, I got a shrine set up and I got Sobek up here. I said, you know anything about the crocodile? No, but that's Sobek. I don't mean who named that. I mean, no, you need to know the behavioral attributes of the crocodile, because the behavioral attributes of the crocodile is actually the Neter. That's the portal, is the behavioral attribute of the animal, right? So you need to know about the crocodile. So let's say, for example, it's 5,000 years ago, and we all take a trip down to the River Happy, and we watch closely the behavioral attributes of the crocodile. One thing we would realize right off the bat, we would realize that they represent patience, because sometimes they can wait months till the wildebeest, the impala, the buffalo come down, and then they attack. They drag them into the water, and then they drown them. So another attribute is the duality of water, right? Because the same water that we need for life, since 70% of our body is water, is the same water that caused death. So it's about duality. Because in Africa, everything is duality. You know, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. The male sperm and the female egg, right? Up, down, left, right. You know, everything is duality, right? Upper Kemet, lower Kemet. You know, the heavens and the earth. Everything is duality, right? So the water is a manifestation, a conceptual manifestation of that duality. The same water that can kill is the same water that gives you life, right? Now, when the crocodile is trying to mate, they do a little dance in the water, right? To get the woman's attention, right? And then they mate. And by the way, that little dance causes a rippling effect in the water. That rippling effect is synonymous to a flood. And in Kemet, floods were always synonymous with the water breaking in the amniotic sac of the womb of the African woman in preparation for the birth of the new sun. And I say S-U-N, because I'm talking about sisters and brothers. We're all melanated, so we're all the sun. You know what I mean? Right? So they mate. She collects her baby, she goes up on shore. She uses her tongue, her tail, to create a hole, and she puts the eggs inside the hole. She guards the eggs with her life, right? So so it tells you motherhood, the strength of motherhood. right? It's talking about the strength of motherhood. And when the baby crocodiles are born, she takes them in her powerful jaws and she takes them down to the water, right? So the same jaws that can snap the head off of a zebra with one bite is the same jaws that gently take her babies down to give them life. So the jaws become the power, and there's duality in power, right? Now, the crocodile is one of the oldest, animals on the planet. The crocodiles go back millions of years. And according to our ancestors, the crocodiles existed in all three time cycles, starting with the stars, the moon, and the sun, right? So when the crocodiles would come out of the water in the morning, they would open, when the sun is rising, they open their jaws. So the powerful jaws is absorbing the energy of the sun. So our ancestors said Ra is the source of their power. So Ra becomes the source of the jaws of the crocodile. Because even though it's a cold-blooded animal, it needs the sun to empower its jaws, which then kills to provide life for them. Everybody understand that? Okay. Now, these are if you look at this, you would think these were the stars. But these are actually the night eyes of the crocodile. And with the night eyes of the crocodile came two metaphors. There was a metaphor before human life and a metaphor after human death. The metaphor before human life was that these night eyes represented the male sperm seeds swimming in the dark, watery womb of the African woman. Right? After physical death, they represent the pole stars, right? And the pole stars is a manifestation, and the souls are manifestations of the pole stars. So the souls are eternal. Now you got to know about the pole stars first. Now it goes back to the path of the sun that's counterclockwise. That goes back through all 12 zodiacal ages in 25,920 years, spinning 30 degrees of the Earth's rotation, or 2,160 years in each zodiacal age. Now, how our ancestors knew this, because every spring equinox, in the pre-dawn of every spring equinox, they noticed that the sun would rise against the backdrop of the same zodiac every day for 2,160 days. And then on the morning, the pre-dawn of the 2,161st day, the sun would rise against the backdrop of the next zodiac. So that 30-degree span of the Earth's rotation became known as the zodiacal age. So the sun goes back through all 12 ages. In those 12 ages also, and we can talk about that a little later, I don't think we have time, but the pole star is born on that 25,920 year cycle. The pole star is born every 3,700 years. So 3,700 divided into 25,920 is 7. So this is the significance of the number 7 as a number of completion, right? Because the pole star is born every 3,700 years, 7 times in this cycle. Now, but that's not right. And now let's talk about the pole star. The pole star is a pole star in the south and the north. We're in the north hemisphere, so I'll talk about the northern pole star. The pole star sits fixed above the North Pole, high in the sky. So it becomes a great tool of navigation for travelers who are traveling by boat or traveling by sea, you know what I mean, or traveling by land. So it became a very important fixed point in the sky for travelers. But that's not why it was important. The reason why the pole star was so important to our ancestors is because pole stars and the circumpolar stars that cycle around the pole star, they never set under the horizon, which means they never die. So the pole star was a perfect metaphor for the soul of Africans who die, the eternal soul. So, because pole stars, not all stars, when people say stars, no, it's the pole stars. Because pole stars never set under the horizon, which means they never die. So they're a perfect metaphor for the eternal soul. All right. So when you see the brother here, obviously this brother didn't need the ancestors, because you see the full crocodile. Yeah. You know what I mean? So now you know what he's absorbing, right? You see what he's absorbing? He is absorbing the nature sobek out of the crocodile. And all the attributes that we just talked about, right? Now you see his hands open. Because in Kemet, in our bodies, there's only 2 parts of our bodies that are transparent. It's the soles of the feet and the palms of the hand. And in Kemet, both were considered sacred, right? But the palms of the hands are like solar panels in Kemet. And when you have a solar panel, the sun comes in, it hits the solar panel, it intensifies the magnetic radiation or heat of the sun, and then it disseminates that increased heat throughout the house. Well, it's the same thing with what this brother's doing. This brother has the windows open, the solar panels. He's internalized, he's absorbing the purpose of the netter. He's absorbing it, and as it hits his windows, this solar panel, the power is intensifying. And then that accelerated power of the netter, or the netteru, or the ancestor, is then being transmitted into the body and the mind. You understand? Now, let's try one more. Let's try mut, the netchert mut. Now, when I say the netchert, I mean I'm adding a suffix t, which is feminine in energy. So when you see netchert, and I'm sure everybody here already know that netchert, the t represents the feminine essence, right?
All right.
So we have the netchert mut here, right? And if you want to absorb the netchert mut, you have to know about the vulture, right? You have to know about the vulture. Now, and we get this thing about the vultures. This is, it eats the roadkill on the side of the highway. They're dirty animals. That could not be further from the truth. Yes, they do eat roadkill and they do eat animals, but only at a particular point of decay. Because if vultures did not eat animals, dying, rotting bodies of the animals, right? Those bodies would emit very dangerous toxins and bacteria into the environment. And we all need the environment to survive because all our food comes from the environment. So in Kemet, the vulture was considered, a environmental cleanser, an environmental purifier. Very important, right? Now, in Kemet, in Upper Kemet, the black vulture was a race of only women, no men. It was only women, right? And when they wanted to conceive, they would conceive by the wind. And if their offspring was lacking sustenance, food, the mother vulture would prick her own thigh and feed her newborn offspring the nutrient-rich blood from her own body. So according to our ancestors, this represented the ultimate sacrifices mothers make for their children's survival. So in Kemet, the black vulture was called Mut. The newborn son is called Her or Heru. When you combine it, you get Mut Her, and this is the word where the word mother comes from. Mother comes from the Kemetic Mut and Heru. That's where the word mother comes from. And if you go in the South, if you talk to some nations in the South, when you ask them if they speak English, because they speak their own language, but if they speak English, the way they pronounce it is mother. You know this, right? They say, yeah, I'm going to see my mother. Mother. They all say mother. And I used to always wonder why. And now I know why, because they're more authentic. Their mind, their spirit goes further back to this. You know what I mean? So this is where mother came from. And so also, when you see, the headdress of the vulture, you will never see it on a man. You will only see the headdress of the vulture. In fact, the word in Kemet for mother is mut. You do? Yes. The word for mother in Kemet is mut from the vulture, right? So you will only see it on sisters, okay? You will never see the headdress on men, because only women can be mothers, right? And just a few more, because I know we got to roll. Let me do two more. So we have the, you good? Okay, so we have now the brother here is absorbing the hawk, the Heru. So in order to absorb Heru, you need to know about the hawk. Now, when you look at the color of the hawk, the color of the hawk is like a golden brown. When the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, you see the reddish part of the sky. Well, that is the blood from that is the blood from the childbirth. When the son is born, or when your child is born, there's always blood, right? That blood, that redness in the sky is the blood that occurs at the point of childbirth, right? So if you mix the color red with the gold of the sun, you get a brownish color. So the hawk was a symbol of the bloodline of the sun people, right? And also the hawk looks directly at the sun when it flies, and it's a bird that flies the highest in the sky, okay? And the blood can see They have like 5 billion vision cells compared to our like 300 to 400,000. And this is where you get the term hawkeye. The hawk can see for like 100, 200 miles, right?
Yeah.
But that's not why the hawk was important to our ancestors. Now, for our ancestors, the hawk, I don't know how many people here know that hawks don't drink water. How many people know that?
They don't drink water?
Hawks don't drink no water. You put water in front of a hawk, they'll act like it's cyanide. Hawks only consume blood.
Oh,
Only consume blood. They only consume blood.
Straight killers.
Yeah, right. You see what I'm saying?
Other birds.
Hmm?
They eat other birds.
And they eat other birds, and exactly, brother. So they eat other birds, and they suck up the nutrient-rich blood. That's the only fluid in their body. So for the millions of generations they've been existing on this planet, to get from one generation to the next is, to get from one generation to the next requires only the transportation of blood from one generation to the next, right? And African people, we are the sun people. So we use this bird as a symbol to represent our blood line because we're the sun people, right? Now the sun rising in the east is Heru. So Heru is symbolized by the hawk, right? Because Heru is the first ancestor of the sun people. Now, that doesn't mean Heru is the first ancestor of the moon people or Heru is the first ancestor of the star people. It means that Heru is the first ancestor of the sun people, not the moon people. There was life before Heru. There was much life before Heru. Heru is the first ancestor of the sun people. And that's why with the Kemetic people, Heru is very important because Heru represents the ancestral bloodline. And for the creative forces to extend permanently in human form, we need to procreate every 20 years to produce another bloodline. This keeps the creator in human form existing eternally. And that's why you see on Heru, you see the sun, but you see it red because that represents the bloodline of the sun people. The sun is not red. But when you see on the temple walls, when you see the sun painted red, it means that that's the bloodline of the sun people. And hawk is the symbol for that. And Heru is the symbol for that bloodline because Heru is the first ancestor of the sun people. And we talk about, you see the ox there for the procreative cycle of life, the eternal procreative cycle of life for African life. We'll do a couple more.
Okay.
So so this brother is trying to absorb the nectar, right, of Wajet or Achet, the cobra, right? You know what I mean? Now, the cobra, when the cobra perches itself upright, it's in a defensive position, right? Which means it's trying to protect its territory, protect its people. Also, when the cobra goes upright, it moves, it wags its tongue and it wags its face, its mouth the other way, and it puts its prey in a hypnotic trance. And it's just like how I want to put you in a trance as a teacher. I want you to be in a trance so you can absorb this instruction, this lesson tonight. So there was a dual reason why you would see the perched up cobra on the headdress of the battle chiefs in Kemet. But also you would see it on the teachers in Kemet for two different reasons, right? Okay. Now there were many snakes in Africa, there's many snakes in Kemet, hundreds of snakes in Kemet, and all the snakes had were considered a metaphor to explain to the African consciousness the Creator's purpose, right? You had Nehebka, you had Sata and Renenetet, right? You had Apap. Now, what you'll find, I got an issue with Apap because Apap is a python. And in Kemet and in southern Africa, the python is a very sacred snake. It represents the umbilical cord of African women. It links now, but we gotta, before I jump there, let's just talk about the umbilical cord because one of the most prolific concepts associated with the snake in Africa was that the snake was the umbilical cord of the African woman inside the womb of the African woman, right? Now, because you see it looks just like a snake, right? Now, this is actually inside the womb of an African woman. The darkness of the womb is a metaphor for the dark sky that births the newborn son every morning in the east, right? Just like this womb right here is birthing a newborn son every day in the symbolic east, right? Okay? So, you know, when a child is born, so let me just say, so the night sky, the cosmic sky becomes a metaphor for the human womb. So they interchange. So if you look at the sky, that's the womb of a woman. If you look at the womb of a woman, that's the cosmic womb. So the night sky was sometimes called the human womb, and the womb of the African woman was sometimes called the cosmic womb because of the darkness and the symbolism of the darkness with the night sky that birthed the newborn son every morning in the east. Now, let me ask everybody in here one thing. How many people here feel disconnected from their mother? Even though if your mother transitioned before, how many people feel disconnected? Like you don't have a connection with your mother, right? Everybody has a connection with their mother. You know what I'm saying? Everybody feels that connection. And you know what this means? It means that the umbilical cord was never really cut. It never was really cut. You know what I'm saying? It was never really cut. So when a baby is born, the umbilical cord comes out. The cosmic womb then births this newborn child into the earth realm, right? The cosmic womb, another name for the cosmic womb is a menta, or the heavens. So the snake is connecting the earth realm to the cosmic womb, or the heavens. So the snake is the connector between the heavens and the earth. The snake is the connector between the two worlds, right? And the snake is never cut. And the snake is never cut. The umbilical cord is never ever cut. Nobody feels disconnected from their mother. So really, the snake is still there, acting as a conduit between this world and the spirit world. Everybody understand that? And so when you die, one of the metaphors is that when we die as African people, our spirit, our soul travels back through the same portal that birthed our physical life, which would be the womb. Now, is that soul going back through the human womb or the cosmic womb? The cosmic womb, a menta, right? See what I'm saying? And the snake is the conduit that's responsible for making that connection, right? So sometimes you'll see pictures like this where the soul is by the snake and the snake is flying. And sometimes you'll see on the temple walls where you'll see the soul of the deceased flying, taking a flying snake up to the stars. And you'll see the stars on the temple walls. And that's all because the snake is responsible for returning the soul back to the womb. Because the snake, the umbilical cord, is the conduit that connects the two worlds. You understand? All right, you know what? It's getting late. I think I'm going to cut it right here. I really appreciate everybody. I love y'all very much. And thank you very, very much for coming out. Now let me just show y'all what we were going to talk about next time.
Okay.
Just to show you, I really wanted to get to the goat because the goat is very important.
Look at the goat.
By Neptujet. You need to know why the goat is balancing the womb. Because no animal has better balance in the world than the goat. And that's why they try to make the goat out. I don't have it here. I don't have the picture here. Yeah, like Baphomet. I thought I had it here. But just to let you see what we were going to do, we was going to go into the whole crescent moon. We were going to the religion, blah, blah, blah. Going to some biblical stuff so I can show you where they're coming from with this nonsense. Oh, I got to show you this right here.
Tomorrow. Part 10 tomorrow.
You know what? No, I leave at 6 o'clock, my plane. You know.
Yeah.
But here's what I want you to do. There's a couple of things that I know a lot of people don't know.
Okay.
Now, this is in the temple of a capital in Assyria called Nineveh, right? It was the capital back in around 700 before the Christian lie, right?
Okay.
Now, I think this was about 700. This is on the temple walls in a place called Lachish. Lachish is now Israel. These were African people in Lachish, and look how these crackers tortured our people. This is what is called being filleted, where they was taking the skin off African people. Look at the cornrows. These are African people, right? They're being filleted. Look at what they're doing to the brother right here, stabbing him in the head. This is a brother. These were our people up in the so-called Middle East for thousands of years. Before they ever was, before there was Asians, before they came down from the caves, we were already there. And what we took with us was our knowledge of the Kemetic Netzer Yah, and also the knowledge of the Kemetic Mother Net, because those two Netzers is the basis for Judaism. So this is what they did. Now you see they marching them to pay homage to the king of Assyria. And this is on the temple walls. This dates back to 700 before the Christian era. This is, they hanging us up in poles right here. Now I was going to tell you about these so-called, these are Jews and these are Jews of the Igbo Jews of Nigeria. And I was going to talk about the Falasha Jews in Ethiopia and tell you that you cannot leave Africa as an African and then go up in the Middle East and suffer for about 1,000 years and then come back and say you're Jews. Now the word Jew comes from the Kemetic Netzer Yah, which is the crescent moon, right? Okay. The Greeks, in the Greek language, they don't have a Y in their alphabet. So they changed it when they came in, and they were one of the last colonizers in the Middle East. So they came in and changed everything from a Y to an I, and then morphed into a J, right? Mm-hmm. So I was going to get into that, and I could stay here all night for that, but I was going to tell you about that and show you about that. Also, let me just show you this right quick. So I was going to tell you, you need to hear this right quick. This one last part. So I was going to teach you, I was going to show you how the planet Saturn was the first cosmic womb. You remember I was telling you about the 3 time cycles? Well, these are 3 time cycles where we lived, so we were born in these time cycles from a womb. And the cosmic image of the first womb was the planet Saturn. The cosmic image of the second womb under the moon was Heteru. It was the new moon. And the cosmic womb of the solar time cycle was the cosmic night sky that birthed the newborn sun every morning in the east. So when I'm saying that Saturn is the cosmic womb, then you will ask me, and I had some things to say about Saturn earlier, but then you will ask me, well, where's the vaginal portal? If Saturn was the first cosmic womb, then where's the vaginal portal? And the vaginal portal is at the northern pole of the planet Saturn. And if you look at the northern pole, it is in hexagon shape, right? So this is the portal that all humanity was birthed out of. And it's a hexagon shape. Now, if you materialize this hexagon shape into physicality, it will be, and because Saturn was called, this is an infrared camera, but it was a black planet, right? This is called the black planet. So if you materialize this in physical form, then it would be a 6-sided black cube. And so there's a reason why you see 6-sided black cubes being worshipped by these Europeans all over the world, but only a select few Europeans. The masses don't know. The masses are still prone to attack the womb because of their ignorance and their racism, right? But the ones who know the truth about the womb, they feel like their intelligence is illuminated. And this becomes the backdrop for the word Illuminati. It's the Europeans who feel like their brain is illuminated because they know our truth. So the black cube, like the Kaaba in Mecca, really means the image of the womb. That's what it really means, the image of the womb. You know, the image of the womb, because this is the vaginal portal that birthed all of humanity. This represents the northern portal, the vaginal portal of the planet Saturn, right? And all over the world, you see black cubes, 6-sided black cubes. This is in Australia, this is in New Zealand, this is in Santa Ana, California. This is what is called a tefillin, and this is on the head of the Hasidic Jews in New York. And only the most sacred Hasidic Jews are allowed to wear the tefillin. And the tefillin is a 6-sided cube. It really represents the womb of the African woman, the vaginal portal of the African woman, right? And so what you got is, you got the planet Saturn, and you have a 6-sided hexagon, right? You have Saturn being the 6th planet from the sun, and then you have the planet Saturn was imaged by a 6-sided star. So this is where you get the image of 666. And this is why they tell you 666 is so evil, because it's about the vaginal portal of the African woman. And the word angel, one more thing.
Yeah.
All right, no. I'm sorry.
tell us and L together is angel.
Yeah, that's where they get the word angel. Because the Phoenician Canaanite word for the planet Saturn, right?
Okay,
Oh,
we got 20 seconds, so, but, you know, this was really great. We gotta shut them down because our time is up, but I really, really appreciate everybody that came out today. I love you all. Did you guys have any questions at all? Any questions? Because it is costly, you know. I did my best, but I still don't know a lot of people to get more people out. So if we can get more people out to help bring TEP back, then we can bring them back whenever. But yeah, but so I do want to thank everybody again. I love everybody for coming out, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right.
Thank you.
thanks, Rob. Appreciate it, man.
We can have y'all do a group